I have dedicated my professional career to the study and control of arthropods.
Alright, so now in part 3 we finally start getting to the main topic of his video and my video, of everybody's video, which is afarensis, australopithecines, Lucy. He starts here talking a bit about he says there are 3 ways to make an ape man. He said the first one is to take an ape and upscale it, meaning overemphasize its human features to make it an ape man. The second way is to take a human and downscale it, overemphasize its ape qualities. And to take the third way, and the only true ape man, he says, is when you take a perfectly modern human bone and a perfectly whatever ape bone, and you mix them together and pretend they come from one organism, as he gives the example of Piltdown. Now, he does give yes, that's exactly what Piltdown Man was, but that's the only example of that. That hasn't, despite lots and lots of creationists throwing that accusation out there, show us where these lie, where these are. But anyway, so this is a really just a terrible thing here. And again, there's that really famous Talk Origins picture that's been published. I'll put it up right here. And I wish I could keep it up while I'm talking, but I challenge creationists because they can't make up their mind where to draw the line. What it is, they look at that scale, they look at that spectrum, and they say, from Homo habilis downward are just apes. From Homo rudolfensis this way are just humans. Other ones say, no, Homo habilis is just a human. No, Homo ergaster or Homo rudolfensis are just apes. There was even a creationist on EVC forum arguing that Neanderthals and all extinct of these extinct hominids were actually just apes. That's not the majority view. But the point is that that's the argument he's trying to make here, and it falls apart. I'd love to have a real collection. I have some, but all of the relevant casts, and actually sit there with a creationist like Dr. Menton and say, point to the line, show me that, because they can't do it. Okay, he does explain that Lucy is a name that's really often given to the species, although Lucy was actually the name of a particular individual fossil. What is it? Oh God, I can't remember. Anyway, it's 288-1, but I think it's AL 288-1. So that's fine. So he's going to refer to the whole species as Lucy, recognizing that we have more than one fossil, which he's one of the few creationists that acknowledge that we don't just have one specimen, one fossil. Okay, so hey, I'll give him credit for that. He recognizes that and acknowledges that, and that's great. And he also acknowledges that with all of the fossils and all of them, cross-examining and everything else, we have most of the skeleton of this animal. Several different, so we have actually variation. We've got children and babies and adult males and adult females and immature males and immature females. So we can actually look at some of the population information about this, like we would look at chimpanzees or something. We could say when they're how fast do they grow? And really an important thing. He talks about Basil Cook and the pig tooth thing. That's an old chestnut they trot out as if somehow there's that we're just making this dates up, and I'm not going to get into that. There's plenty of stuff. Talk Origins got great information on that. Read Lucy: The Beginnings of Mankind itself. Read Johanson's book where he talks about it, where he's citing from, and you'll see that there's nothing deceptive and there's nothing sneaky going on there. Okay. And then, now this is where, oh boy, another bad creationist moment. He talks about the differences between, he wants to show you first, here's what a human skull looks like, here's what an ape skull looks like. I can do the same thing. Oops, wrong side of me. That's funny. Human skull, modern human skull, There's the chimpanzee skull. There's an afarensis skull. I know I might bring them down later. I don't know if I'm going to bother or not. But so let's see here. He talks about the differences and how what his attempt is to show you that Lucy is just an ape. No different, in fact, if anything, more of an ape than living apes in some ways. All right, and he makes this. He says that the cranial capacity of Australopithecus afarensis is small, even by ape standards. Now, I don't know if he's just sloppy in his research, if he's deliberately deceptive or manipulative or what, because it takes a few minutes. Look it up. Google cranial capacity. Anyway, just for some information here. Here's I'm not going to go through all of them. But here, let's look. The closest comparison, let's see, would be chimpanzee. Okay, let's look at a common chimpanzee. Although maybe a pig. Okay, pygmy chimpanzee. How about that? We're looking at a pygmy chimpanzee. So, cranial capacity of a pygmy chimpanzee is 275 to 475 cubic centimeters. Okay. Body weight, 50 to 70 kilograms. Okay. Australopithecus afarensis, 380 to 438 cubic centimeters. Okay, that seems fair. 25 to 60 kilograms. So actually, starting off at half the mass of a pygmy chimpanzee. Okay. Anyway, sorry. Point is, Australopithecus afarensis had a bigger brain than any living ape compared to its body size. Okay, it had a big brain. It was a tiny brain compared to any human, any extinct human. Okay, it did indeed have a tiny brain, but not small even by ape standards. It would have been if it were alive today, along with the gorillas and chimps and orangutans and gibbons, it'd be the smartest of all the apes by a good margin. Okay, it had a big ass brain. So for him to say that, I don't know what he's doing. Okay, he states here that apes lack nasal bones. Now, just to show you real quick here, hopefully this will come in. I'm going to take my human skull down and see if I can get a close up here. These bones he's talking about, oh crap, right there. That's the nasal bones, okay? Usually there's a split down the middle of them. It won't really come in accurately in this. Oh, there you go. You can see it. That's the nasal bones. I was really surprised to find out that apes don't have nasal bones. Apes don't have nasal bones. Apes don't have nasal bones? Okay. He also says that apes from the front look like a jack-o'-lantern with a triangular hole as opposed to a human nose, which, take your pick, which one looks like a jack-o'-lantern. My thought with this nasal bones and all of that, here is a really poor quality cast, not a museum quality cast. This is a student quality cast of an orangutan, and where they just have the nose as this black hole, like a little hole that's like that, where you can't see any details of, it's really... It looks like crap. If he's looking at this and using that as his judgment as to whether or not apes have nasal bones, then yeah. All mammals have nasal bones. Even whales, their nasal bones are up here on top of their head, but they have nasal bones. Okay, nasals are a feature of the mammalian skull. Menton concludes part 3 of his video by making the suggestion that the only other feature of interest on Australopithecine skulls is the thickened enamel, at least the feature that would make us believe that they are related to people. He then counters this by claiming that apes like the orangutan also have thickened enamel, and that it's more of a function of diet as opposed to a function of phylogeny. Well, like I said, an interesting point, except that it's not true. Actually, orangutans have thicker enamel than chimpanzees and gorillas. None of them have the thick enamel that we see in humans and Australopithecines, but that's a different story. The point I'm talking about is there's no other feature of interest on the skull that would make us think it's human. Oh, like the fact that the spinal cord enters the skull at an angle straight up like it does in humans as opposed to at an angle as it does in chimpanzees. The fact that the face is slightly different shaped. While it's still somewhat chimp-like, it's different than a chimp. The fact that the canine teeth are greatly reduced. The fact that the shape of the jaw is, while somewhat more parallel U-shaped like in an ape than a human, it's still more like a human than an ape's jaw. So maybe those little features, maybe those few other features are of interest to us.